Hi, I'm Lisanne Miller with W. Cushing and Company, and we're here today. We're going to talk about leaves and different rugs throughout the ages. But today also marks our 1-year anniversary of having our videos and podcasts. So thank you for all your support, and thank you to Rug Hooking Magazine for doing this. We appreciate you very, very much. So, leaves. Let's look at some leaves that we have here. The first one is a very old rug, and we're going to take you through all the rugs on the table here. This is a really interesting rug, and to think rug hookers have changed through the ages, and yes, this is in very bad shape. This is a turn of the century, late 1800s rug. It is done on burlap. It is done on feed sack burlap. The reds are old, but this is a frost pattern. And this rug hooker was very ingenious. She didn't like the roses. She started the leaves in here. These were supposed to be roses over here, but she decided she had enough in here. So this is how she did. She put leaves in. And if you notice, her leaves are very simplistic but very effective. So she's put her vein in one color. There's her vein. And then she has almost like an individual puzzle piece of color. She hasn't split the colors. She hasn't shaded the colors. They are just split, where she either ran out of fabric, where she decided it should be. There's nothing fancy about these, and I'm going to flip it to the other side so you can see the brighter color. And she also crossed. I mean, you know, this is a real primitive. But there's her vein, and then here's her sections of color. Very interesting way to do that. A great way to do leaves, any type of a leaf. And here's the other section. Again, here's your veins, there's your little pieces. Used probably what she had when she ran out. You know, she did section it. No crossing of the two, combining of the two colors, but it is very, very effective. So this is a primitive leaf, a way to do leaves, and I'm going to take it over here for a second as well, because as you can see, she ran out of color right at the end. She used black. But when you see it here and she used black down here, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter she didn't use it in the other leaf. It looks very nice. And here she ran out, or she needed to outline it, she thought. So she outlined what she thought wasn't showing up on the other side. Again, very effective. Nothing fancy. Great way to use your leftovers. And a nice leaf. The next rug is again from the turn of the century. This is our newest pattern. It's called Sila Prim. And because it is a derivative of Sila Prim, which we'll go over next. These leaves are hooked very differently. They're very large. Okay. They're one side is one color, one side is another, where she had spots that apparently she needed to fill in. She just picked a color. Here, this leaf has very little green, very little vein, a faded vein, and she's just gone around it with a real faded color. Now, I can show you the back on this one so you can see it. And as you can tell, one side is one color, one side is another. This has a very muted center. One side is more solid, the other was all what she had left over. And this is very typical of leaves. People want to do one side one color, one side the other. This leaf is very interesting. She didn't continue the vein in the same color, and she tried to kind of shade it, to use her shading within it. And I'm going to show you on this side what that looks like. So this is actually, and this, just so you are aware, is not wool. This is homespun and silk stockings. So it is not wool. But you can see she went in through here, then filled in with her leftover greens. She went in here, filled in. So this is more of just little pieces here and there, or was it all that she had left over? But she did outline it to contain it. Vein is not the same color. This leaf down here I found most interesting. She did the vein in one color. She tried to shade it. She came in with a dark next to the vein and then moved out to the light, and then knew that it would fade against her background and then outlined it again. A simple leaf, she hooked very primitive. The vein, the one color where she ran out, she plopped in another little color. So this is what we would call truly what they did back then. It's home done. This is how they hooked. They hooked with what they had. Now, this is Sila Prim, okay? And now that's little sister to Sila Prim. So we're going to go a little modern for a second and then step back. That rug is a derivative of the patterns in this rug. And this rug is a Ralph Burnham design, which is from the early, late 1800s, early 1900s. So that was a derivative of it. So you can tell some of the flowers are the same. The rug hooker in this case used two different spot dyes. She used a color that was in part of her flowers, and she made her veins. And then she had the three leaves, but she used spot dyes to fill in. And she didn't hook it in the shape of the leaf. She hooked it in sections. This section, then came up into here. By doing that, you utilize the whole entire color of the spot dye. And by using the whole color, you get an overall effect to the leaf. This one was a darker spot dye. Now this one was the same spot dye as this, but she chose to outline it in a bluish teal to make it set up, almost like the one from the 1800s did. So really, we haven't changed that much in how we think, but we're using different fabrics, dyed fabrics here. In the case of this leaf, if you notice direction of hooking, yes, that is one of our tools. She did the outline and then put the pieces up to it. The outline defines the leaves. It defines the leaves. And just like in Sila Prim on this leaf, so we're going 1890s, 1900 to 2019, she filled in the leaf and then just took a dab of color of what she had before. Same thing. It's amazing how much we think we change, but we don't. And this gets it a very effective leaf and ties it in with the rest of the greens. These leaves over here, the spot dye was just used and hooked. And if you hook the spot dye correctly, by not going round and round, but by going back and forth, the spot comes out and makes the leaf a mottled leaf. Now we're going to go to the same pattern, different rug hooker, brighter color palette. Brighter color palette. And here is the use of textures in almost the same way. These two are textures, and then the middle one is a different texture. The veins are colors from all of the flowers on Sila Prim, from spot dye to just regular dyed wool. Here it is in a flower. Here it is over here in a leaf. And in this case, the rug hooker used textures for the leaves. She also expanded the center to look more like a bud on some of them. But she always drew from her veins from the flowers in the rug. A little bit brighter, all textured on Sila Prim on this one. Okay? On the other one, more muted colors, dyed wool. Now let's talk about that for a second before we move on. A typical spot dye that could be used would be this one. It has a lot of color in it, as you can tell, the modeling of the color, and when you go to cut it, and I know somebody is going to ask, so I will tell you, this is Fall Mums. And you see, by cutting it and hooking it not up and down, but back and forth or in little pieces, you get the full effect of the spot. Pair that with a bold vein, such as this, okay, or an even bolder vein, such as this, and you have a leaf. And even Madras would work as a leaf or as the vein. Okay? Another great texture to use is Geo Green. Geo Green it's an interesting texture. when you look at it, and you have to look at your textures, okay? This has stripes into it in different colors and stripes this way in different colors. So when you cut it, and depending on the size that you cut it on, this is a tighter weave wool. So by being a tighter weave, you can cut it down to a 4 without fraying. But when you go to use your texture now with a stripe, it's almost a double stripe, you do get like you've used 3 or 4 wools. This would make a great leaf or a great vein. Okay, another one that we would use would be green bean. This would just make a leaf by itself, and you can pop it, you can reverse it. This can be the vein, this can be the leaf, or this can be the leaf, this can be the vein. Okay, so now we're going to go and look at maple leaves. Whoops, there we go, maple leaves. Now maple leaves can be done different colors. Here is the same pattern 3 different ways. 3 different colored backgrounds. Okay, these are older ones. If you notice, the background here is dyed, it's cut small. It was just a mottled pot dye. Little bit of modeling, not a lot. The vein was of course a dip dye for all the differences, and this one is broken apart into sections. So the red defines the leaf, just like that. Then that came out with a taupey color here. Then we moved out to greens and tipped with a yellow green. And here's another green over here. This is fingered in, this is a shaded leaf. Now, where the rug hooker felt that the leaves weren't standing up, she took a lighter color, as you can see, and she went around the leaves. And she went in and around. This was done after the leaf was hooked, okay? After the leaf was hooked. On this side, this rug hooker took the green version. So, again, the darker is in the center, but it's not even. This is not a match process. The greens were splayed out, the darker greens were splayed out, but not evenly. That allows the leaf to have dimension. Then the medium, the next value, came in and filled in here. And as we went out, we went to the lightest value. Now, this rug hooker took a lighter color, and she shadowed almost the entire leaf with the lighter color, as you can see. But she was still losing some tips. If you notice, there's no gold here. It's not as predominant as these are. You can see this much nicer. When you're losing the tips of your leaves, by taking what your vein color is and hooking it low, but not being an entire outline, just giving it highlights allows it to set up. Then this is a current maple leaf that was hooked. Dark background, which was a texture. The vein was put in. The predominant was a spot dye. And then after the spot dye was put in, we used another texture, another green texture called Sweet Pea, and where the leaf wanted to be highlighted, it was put in. This is not tipped, except here, here. The Sweet Pea became the tip, where she wanted the accent. The leaf has dimension, it has depth, and it's only using 3 colors. So these are 3 different maple leaf patterns, 3 different color waves, not 3 different patterns. It's the same pattern, 3 different ways. Okay? So now we're going to move over to this section, and this is the Adams Hall runner. Okay? This has a lot of different leaves on it. And the importance of these leaves is sometimes you want the leaves to turn. And by turning the leaves, you have to turn it with color. Not size of cut, but color. So this is a bluish green. The vein is that goldish color, but there's gray almost on the other side. When it came to the turn, she used the darkest gray, and then she used the vein color to create the turn. That's also been done here. Like we learned on the scrolls, by using one color to draw your eye, this was the leaf, this is the highlight, the leaf turns. In this case, in this leaf, we have the same type of vein. This color is actually the same. She used the gray from here and some of the blue, but when this didn't stand up as well, she came in with a darker shade periodically. She didn't outline, she didn't make it a hard outline. She just did it to show you it was a leaf, to give the impression of a leaf, and then your eye will fill it in. Another way to turn a leaf, this has a lot of good examples on it. Here is our leaf. Notice there's the vein and there's a highlight around the vein. She changed colors entirely to turn the leaf. And this line, this darker line right here of the brown, right there starts the turn, and then she finished it this way. On the other side, while it's still turning, if you notice, this leaf doesn't turn as much. You have your lightest, medium, and dark value. Like on the scrolls, here comes your dark to wrap around, and then there's your medium and your light. While this does turn, it does not turn as much as this leaf does. So you can see the difference right there. And these leaves are turning now. Maybe you have a double turn leaf. This actually has an example of a double turn leaf in it. Here we go, just like in the scrolls. Here's our dark that we're going to follow to here, and we're going to pick it up again here. This color and this color are the same. These are what create the twist. Dark, medium, light, medium. Notice there's no dark down here. It would look like a pea pod. The turn comes because of this, just like in the scrolls. One last one on this rug, and then we'll go on to some of the others that we have here. This one is a very interesting, you can see it turns quite nicely. Here's your vein. Notice how I'm saying your vein because that will go in first. She used a dark and a light, no medium, came out almost in a feather type of way. Then she used this color here to create the turn, medium to light. Then she repeated this again, but she hooked in this method across. Direction of hooking is what makes this leaf turn. Direction of hooking. Okay. Our next rug has multiple leaves on it. You didn't think there could be that many leaves in a talk, did you? Now, we're going to start right here. I love this. I love this leaf. I love this leaf. Very nondescript on the vein. The vein was in material. The colors in the leaf are what was important. We've got red, we've got gold, we've got brown, we've got 2 shades of green, you name it. And all it is it's hooked. It's different little pieces, and it's just hooked. Up front here, the leaves are just tipped. Now, this leaf is a cup. And how to create the cup, here's your dark, then here's your lightest, brightest, bright and light in here and up here to show it's inside. If this was super light, this would be dark. And notice the dark tip. We're skipping values, we're skipping in color to give it dimension. And none of the tips are exactly the same color, but yet it looks just like a fall leaf, my favorite leaf. On this, since this is a berry leaf, more like holly, it's got that blue-green. But there's a lot of aqua, lime green. Don't be afraid to use your colors when you hook a leaf. Sometimes they make the most dramatic leaves and the best color. And in this case, this side is outlined in dark, this is not. This has no outline, this has predominant dark. So it allows 3 different leaves from the same pile of noodles. here is the case of we had light versus dark. Now we have the light coming in, the dark in between to create the depth and the turn. So it's the opposite from this one where the light was in, the dark was out. This is the light is out, the dark is in. Here's a beautiful red leaf. Very simple, but you see the light comes and we jump to dark. It does the turn. Another cupped leaf here where the light comes in and this is the dark. Over here we have light and light, but a gold, a dramatic change in the color makes it come up. Same thing here. So what we've learned, what you've built on from learning how to hook the scrolls, you can now apply to the leaves. A lot of good examples here too. Here we go. Another great rug. This rug, you have multiple leaves like a forest floor. This one has a hole in it. Not every leaf is perfect. Different veins. The veins seem to draw your eyes on this rug. This one uses light and dark. This one uses little patches of color. So this one is hooked quite differently than the last one. The veins here are what decide the leaves. The veins draw you around to the different leaves. It's a very good effect because you have multiple leaves, but your eyes move around based on the veins. One last one on these type. This is a very old rug. And this one is simplistically done. While we've had the very beautiful shaded ones, this one is an attempt at that, but it's the same vein and it's just hooked. It's just whatever came up. They're just noodles. She used dark and light to draw you around. This is medium in light. She did not outline, and you see by not outlining up in here, you do lose part of the leaf. You do lose it over here. These are very, very solid color primary leaves. This one she set up the vein a little differently, but all very effective. Another way to do the leaves. Works very well. Everything is effective. And whatever leaf she liked the best from the outside, she put in the center. And again, this one could have used an outline probably, or an outline here, but it's still very effective. Very, very effective. And this is just done mainly in 1 or 2 tones and just hooked. Now we're going to go on when you have fruit, flowers, and leaves. Fruit, flower, and leaves take on a different avenue. And you'll remember this from the scroll rug. In here, the colors that were used in the flowers and the grapes, more than one tone become the vein. But if you really look at this, then it's gone around in one color, then another color. By using a spot die and a smaller cut, you're able to get almost pixelated of colors. But if you look at that, it's just done unevenly and then filled in. Same thing here, done unevenly, filled in. Same here. This leaf is in waves. What draws you is the veins. Then the veins are light, then a dark, but not a dark all the way up. Your eye finishes it, and then a fill in. In here, this is what we talked about before. Here's your vein from this flower. Okay, there's your dark, and then it goes out to medium and a little cap here and there. On this turn of a leaf, light was used to turn it, not dark. This little light turns it, then there's a dark, and then it turns. Same thing here, light, a little top of dark, then it turns. And this is being used, these colors are being used from everything that is in this rug and in the scrolls. Now we're going to talk a little bit about holly leaves. Okay, holly leaves, most people don't want to put a pink spot die into holly leaves. and this is Monet's Garden. But Monet's Garden works beautifully in the holly leaves. It adds to the little bit of red here, but there's your dark vein, and it's actually 3 layers. Dark, medium, light, and then your medium outlines. So this is taken in a half, like this. Then comes Monet's Garden with light and medium and a little bit of dark. And really these 1, 2, 3 colors, 4 with the vein, and then Monet's, that's what all of these holly leaves are hooked in. There's different ways. Some have more dark, some have more light, but it's really the Monet's Garden in here, cut very small, that allows you to look at how the holly was shaped. So one little spot die like that made all the difference in the world in the holly leaves. Okay. Now we're going to go to where the veins are the same based on the roses, and then the leaves change sporadically. So the roses were hooked, and any color that was in the rose that was left over was used in the veins. You have all different shades of the pinks in here and the wood rose. Then some of it is a brown green, and then we go to a blue green, a very light blue green, dark, medium. These leaves really don't vary. They're the same color, but what they vary in is the use of the colors. This one has a lot of light. This has no light, it has the brown. This has green, no brown, but again, no light. This has both. One side is one color, one side is the other. So really, with this one, they've pulled from everything. This is from here. They've pulled from everything that was in the rug and hook the leaves with it to match. Excellent job, and it doesn't jar the beautiful job done on the roses. Important, it doesn't compete with the flowers. It adds to them. Here we go. This is a frost, and this was done in a very textured and dyed wool. It's a good combo. This is a great combo. And if you notice, these are hooked a little differently. These have a color that comes into here, the texture feeds down, and then the light tips it. This was built from the bottom to the top, not the top to the bottom. Same thing here. The blue was used over here a little more heavily, and it was used in here. Also here. So what happened here most likely is here's your darker color, there's the blue coming in. It didn't look good right next to the black, so they stuck the light in like a bud. Same thing over here, because these are supposed to be leaves. Good use, looks great, but when you break it down, it's a very easy leaf to hook. Same thing over here. This one really breaks it down where you can see it. This was hooked unevenly. The next color was brought down in, and then the light doesn't wrap all the way around, it wraps 3/4 and comes in. Great use of the colors on that. Last leaf, and then we'll look at some wool combinations. The leaves don't change much. One side is light, one side is dark. The intensity of the light and the dark changes. But what makes this one a little different and why I put it into the mix is everything is outlined in this tan color. It's a tannish brown color. Everything is outlined in it. So the leaves become part of the entire rug. The strawberries don't sit on the leaves, but the leaves become part of the rug. They're almost an element in the rug. And why that is she unified them into the rug by outlining each one with that color. And that is one way to make them as part of the rug, not what the flowers sit on. as I showed you before, when you want it to be what the flowers sit on, it shouldn't take precedence over the object. This, the leaves are part of the rug, not just what the strawberries and the flowers stand on. So that is yet another way to incorporate the leaves into your rug. Now we're going to go all the way down the other end over here, and we're going to talk about some wools. Okay. First, this bundle here makes great dark leaves. This is called Stadium Plaid. You can get a lot of different leaves out of it. You can get the bluish look, the brown look. Because this is all woven as one, they all do correlate together as complementary fabrics. So you can cut these into sections and use this to hook. The caramel always works for a vein. And sometimes when you need the lighter value, this works as a lighter value tobacco row. So these three would create beautiful leaves. You can switch them around. This makes a wonderful, wonderful leaf. This dyed piece of wool is called oak leaf. It looks like fallen oak leaves. It has its highs, it has its lows. And just as we would cut the wool as we did for the scrolls, you have your one section here, you get a little bit of green over here, a little bit of light over here. So you get everything in one package, how you cut it, or even if you were just to cut it and hook it, it would make a leaf by itself, just like this. There you are. Vein. Teaberry would work beautifully as a fading vein. Stonehenge Light would also work. This works great. This is Stonehenge Light. This makes leaves that are decomposing or on the forest floor. You've got your little bit of blue. You've got a little bit of gray. Again, works great. Add fishbone, the texture for the vein, or mix it in with the leaf, vice versa. You've got a great grayish leaf. Thanksgiving, which is a beautiful plaid. This plaid works. It's got the gold and the blue. It can just be cut and hooked. This is a tighter weave wool, so you can actually cut this down to a 4, and you could use your size of cut. You can do a 4, 6, and an 8, get the different amounts of texture, and make one leaf out of this. But if you do notice, caramel goes wonderful with it. This is Thanksgiving. This is Old Town. Old Town has a lot of colors in it. It is a stripe. We all love stripes. You can cut it this way for one look, this way for another look. You can combine orange, green, blue, gray, anything you'd like with it. So while if we were wearing both of these plaids together, people might tell us we are a little colorblind, they work beautifully together in a leaf. And you can see the colors as they correlate. Guacamole, another tighter weave wool. And if you take one of your dip dyes and you just want a tone-on-tone leaf like we've shown, this can be the vein, this can be the leaf. This can be the vein, that can be the leaf. It's got a little bit of plum in it, a little bit of orange, and these two would make a great brighter leaf. We've showed you before the Geo Green. I really like the Geo Green. I like to use it with our darker leaves, you know, if you're going to do some darker ones. The other one is Madras. Madras is a nice orangey red plaid, and I like that it has the orange and the red, because then you can combine it with something wonderful like this for a real dramatic leaf. And the two together would make a beautifully dramatic leaf. If you needed some dark in there, you could bring in oak leaf. You could bring in caramel for a warmer look. But just beautiful. Even this leaf with this leaf with this leaf would be beautiful. So that is leaves. There's all different ways to do leaves. A lot of people like to actually use their leftover noodles or keep them together, all their different reds, all their different blue grays, all their different golds, orange, and yellow, and then you can just hook them, whether it be texture, whether it be dyed, dip dyed, spot dyed. So I hope that this was valuable to you as the leaves are now falling off the trees. You have a good floor to look at when you walk and you're looking at the leaves, and you may see some different colors, take some pictures, press some leaves even like we used to do as a child. So I hope you will do that. Send us pictures of your hooked leaves, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I want to wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope you all have fun with family and friends. Thank you very much.